Hi everyone, and welcome to The Author's Journey, bringing you stories of authors in our community and their journeys with the written word. Today I'm delighted to have with me Cait Gordon, who is a first-time author coming on the show today. Thanks so much for coming today, Cait.
Oh, thank you so much for having me.
Welcome, welcome. Now, tell me a little bit about yourself. Tell me about how you started down this path of becoming an author and your journey with the written word. Where did it all begin?
I think it began when I used to round up my little stuffed animals when I was a little girl and tell them stories.
Is that right?
I was thinking about that. I think that's where it began.
Really?
Yeah, and as soon as I could write, I asked my parents for there was this red and white typewriter that I loved so much. And they bought me this little typewriter and I'd bang out my little stories. And yeah, I was always using my imagination.
Yeah.
Sometimes it was a good thing, sometimes it was, you really have an overactive imagination, Kat. But yeah, I've been making up stories inside my head for as long as I could, and even in English class in school, I always rose my hand when it was composition time and wanted to read my stories out loud.
I love it, I love it. So did you have people in your childhood who encouraged you to become a writer and to really develop this imagination and the storytelling craft?
Well, my mother loved reading to me at night.
Okay.
And it's really interesting because I was thinking about the type of stuff that I enjoy to write, and it's a combination of different things that happened in my childhood.
Yeah.
So my mom would read me all the fairy tales, all the Disney stuff,
right.
And so I developed that kind of romantic heart.
Yes, yes.
But then when I was 7, Star Wars came out,
okay.
and I just fell in love with space opera and such.
Okay.
And I think I always, even though I love space opera and I love the Disney romance tales,
yes,
and then I kind of really love funny stuff. When you put them all together, that's how I became an author. A little bit of each, never one in any category. They all have to go together.
I see a little bit of all of them actually in you as you're speaking right now, as a matter of fact. And it's great that you have such great enthusiasm and such great passion, obviously, because this is something that I believe informs a great deal of how you write. So is this something, do you bring that passion into everything, into your writing, into all that you put together?
I think so.
Yeah.
I think so, and I betray my personality in my characters all the time. The other day I wrote on Facebook about a certain character I have in Life in the Cosm called Zax.
Yes.
I said, I don't know where Zax gets his sass from.
I have no idea.
And a friend said, really? You really don't know? So yeah, I find that, you can't help but funnel yourself when you write, and it's cathartic. But I also have a good time while I'm doing it as well.
Well, I can see you chuckling as you're writing, as a matter of fact. That's just well, tell me, I mentioned earlier that you're a first-time author.
Yes.
So congratulations on that.
Thank you.
I know what a big deal it is to actually publish your first book. How does it feel, first of all?
It feels amazing.
Yeah.
And I'm really, really lucky because I have this small press as my publisher.
Yes.
And we're all like a little family.
Who's your publisher?
It's Renaissance, and they're a Gatineau press.
Yes.
And they're a multi-genre press. So I get the privilege of meeting authors that don't write necessarily the same as myself. Okay. So I read all their things. And it's expanded my horizons in terms of my tastes in reading.
Yes.
And I just love kind of reading a book and then talking to the actual author about the book. That's a thrill for me.
Have you actually had people read your book and come up to you and then say, I love your book? Because I know the feeling, how that feels. So how does that feel?
Now that feels wonderful and also a relief.
A relief, tell me why.
Well, when you're a humor author, you're not so sure that you're the only one who thinks you're funny. So it really matters when someone comes up to you and says, I laughed so hard at your book, and I'm like, okay, good, it's not just me.
I'm not the only one who thinks it's funny. Other people think it's funny too.
Yeah.
Okay, so tell me then, your book is called A Life in the Cosm, right?
Yes.
So what does that title mean? What's life in the Cosm?
Well, Cosm is actually, it has a little apostrophe.
That's right.
So it's short for microcosm.
Okay.
And it's about this little green guy named Verge of Reason. That's his real name.
Verge of Reason, okay.
And he is smitten with the female half of his two-headed colleague that he sits beside in his mundane job at work.
Okay, so obviously this is not taking place here on Earth if there are two heads involved in one being.
That's right.
So this is out in the microcosm, okay?
Yeah, it's
in space?
way out somewhere in a galaxy.
Somewhere in the galaxy.
Without a name right now.
Okay.
And so Verge is a technical scribe, which is his version of a technical writer, which which I happen to have been for 20 years. Okay. And he doesn't like his job very much, but he's smitten with this Freda, who's one half of Freda and Joby. And Freda and Joby get ill, and Verge decides he can go halfway across the galaxy to save their lives with some miraculous cure.
Okay.
Even though he's just a technical writer. Okay. So he lives a little bit in his own world and chases fantasy.
So what inspired you to write this? I imagine this sounds like is it science fiction, more science fiction, not so much new age, but probably more science fiction, right? Comic? Is it a comic book? No.
It is science fiction.
Right.
And it's funny you said comic book, because these were characters I doodled in the 90s just for fun. I was thinking of making them a comic strip.
Right.
And then in 1998, I kind of jotted a few things down which were pretty horrible, and I put it away. I don't know if I did 10 pages, put it away. Okay. And then 2014, I thought to myself, I'm going to do a writing exercise. And I thought, oh, I was writing something about Verge. Let me bring that back. And honestly, I accidentally wrote the book. That is my story, and I'm sticking to it.
So how does one accidentally write a book? This is the first time I've heard of an accidental book writing. So please tell me about how you accidentally write a book.
I thought, well, now at the time, I'll be serious for 2 seconds, but I have developed a neuropathic disability. Okay. And it put me in a state of chronic pain, just excruciating pain. So I thought, if I do a writing exercise, maybe that will take my mind off the pain. Okay. And being me, no matter pain or not, I chose the humor path. And I thought, well, I'm just going to every night I'm going to write a little something. That's what I'm going to do. Okay. And then one chapter became 2, became 3, and I had this rule that I was going to write in a straight line and never delete anything. So no matter where I put myself in the book, I had to get myself out of there. And I think for the first time in my life, I tried to write a story instead of trying to write a book. And for me, that was the key.
So tell me how you define the difference between writing a book and writing a story.
When I was in my 20s, that's when I really wanted to be published.
Last year, right?
Like, 3-4 years ago. Yeah, so I really desperately wanted to write and be published. Okay. And I was like, I gotta write a book, I'm gonna write a book. And for me, I guess the way my mind works, I was so interested in the end game that I forgot to concentrate on the journey to get there. Okay. And when 2 or 3 years later, I wrote Life in the Cosm. I started in 2014. I wasn't thinking about writing a book because I had no intention of writing a book. So I became involved in the story. Okay. And then I got to the end of the story. And I said, you know what, I kind of like this. Maybe somebody else might like it too. Why don't I just try? Yeah. And then I accidentally got published.
So tell me about your process for writing. You mentioned that you are someone who lives with a disability, and it's something, does it cause you said it causes you physical pain. Yes. Is it physical pain in your hands?
Absolutely, yeah. So it's widespread neuropathic pain. Yes. It could be in my neck, shoulders, hands, elbows, knees, legs. It has really affected my ability to walk, so I have my rollator, which nobody calls a rollator, they call it Nuala after a character in my book, who also happens to have a neuropathic disability.
Go figure.
How did I come up with that?
How did you come up with that? Well, and we'll talk about that actually. Was it your intention to write a character who has a disability?
No, I accidentally wrote her too. I swear I didn't plan anything in this book. It just really happened. And in terms of trying to find out what is my method of writing, I didn't know the answer. And I still kind of don't, because I think I'm figuring it out as I'm going along. I thought I was someone who just liked to just go by the seat of my pants and never plan a thing. But now NaNoWriMo, the National Novel Writing Month, is upon us. Yes. And I had to plan to see how much I could write every day, word count-wise, with this disability to get to the finish line. So now I could be someone who plans to write every day. I'm going to have to follow up with a blog to say what my writing style is, because I'm just learning as I go.
So you're obviously not somebody that just sits and plans now.
Right.
Do you see the benefit of writing in that way, where you're actually having to structure as opposed to simply allowing a stream of consciousness and then whatever comes through to come through you?
Life in the Cosm was easy because I didn't have any books before. So now I'm writing, I have two works in process with the second book in the Cosm series,
yes,
and now a prequel to it.
Okay.
And I thought, well, no, I have to really think a little bit, because if I'm using similar characters and stuff, I have to kind of, especially with a prequel, okay, how do I get from here to there? I have to have some kind of structure of the book.
Right.
So yeah, so now I'm finding there is a benefit when you're in the same series,
yes,
to do just a hint of outlining.
Yes.
But even so, when I do that, if the mood strikes me, I'll just write a scene down, even if it belongs to nowhere, just to keep it there.
Right, because in some of the other shows that we've talked about, I mean, I understand that completely. There are moments when inspiration just strikes, and doesn't have to be, when you're sitting at your desk from 9 to 2 or whatever the times are. And it's important to capture those thoughts in the moment,
yes,
because you don't know where they might fit in the future, but they do fit somewhere. Okay, can you mentioned that actually, because you mentioned the condition that you deal with, can you tell me how long it actually took you to write your first book?
You know what? It took like 9 months to get that first draft out.
9 months?
It just poured out of me.
Well, that's pretty fast,
yeah,
for a first-time writer.
I know. I accidentally wrote the thing in 9 months. The first draft just spilled out of me.
Okay.
And because it took me to a certain place, I couldn't remember having pain while I was writing it.
Oh, how interesting. So did you find that the process of writing somehow alleviated the pain or helped you manage it better?
It did, for those times when I was writing. And I can't quote the science, but I had read an article about a year later that talked about how creativity could actually help distract the brain for people with continuous chronic pain. So I thought, oh, well, that's good to know.
So the writing was a distraction from the pain for you?
Yeah, very much so.
Oh, how interesting.
Yeah.
And so then, well, is this how you're going, do you think you're going to be writing moving forward? Just allowing whatever inspiration hits to hit, and then using it as a means to distract from the pain?
I think so, but now I'm just so involved with the writing process that I don't actually think of it as a pain management tool anymore. I just do it for the love.
You do it for the love.
Yeah.
Well, I can feel the love pouring out of you and the passion pouring out of you for what it is that you do. Now, you also mentioned, and I read on your blog, that you are a musician.
Yeah.
And I do want to talk about what it means to be a musician, and you're a drummer.
I am a drummer.
And that you'd sell your sofa before you sold your drum.
That's right.
And I love that quote. So we're going to talk about that when we come back from break. Please stay tuned, everybody, as we continue our conversation with Cait Gordon. Welcome back to The Author's Journey, everyone, where I'm continuing my conversation with Cait Gordon, a local author who's just finished publishing her first book called Life in the Cosm. And we left off speaking about your passion for music and for drumming.
Yes.
That you love your drums. What is it about the drums that you love?
Well, it's productive hitting.
Productive hitting.
And you don't go to jail for it. I love my drums. They are everything to me. And you know, they're like the best physiotherapy tool on the planet for me.
So this is like the traditional drum set, right, that we're talking about?
Yes, but I have an electronic kit because I don't want to get divorced.
Okay.
So
what does that mean? Like, you have an electronic kit, which means
it's a full kit.
Yes.
But I can plug in headphones.
Oh, I see.
So my husband hears a rap-a-tap-a-tap, but like I don't take the house down. You know, the glasses don't rattle and such.
I think that's a great thing to have if you have kids as well.
Yeah.
To have the kid as well.
Exactly.
Okay, well, you know, one of the things that I know that you have started that I'd like you to talk a little bit about is a network called the Spoonie Authors Network.
Yes.
Now, I have to ask, Spoonie, what is a Spoonie now? What is a Spoonie?
I'm so glad you asked that question, because a lot of people don't know what it is.
No, I don't know. I really don't.
So there was a woman with a chronic condition who was trying to explain to her friends, how does she get through a day with limited energy because of a condition, disability she had. And her name is Christine Miserandino. I always get that wrong.
Okay.
But I think her blog is butyoudontlook-sick.com.
But you don't look sick.com.
Yeah, which is a great thing.
Name.
Yeah, especially for people with invisible disabilities.
Yes.
So she created Spoon Theory, where she said, okay, imagine all the mundane tasks you have to do every day are represented by spoons.
Okay.
So getting up is a spoon, taking a shower is a spoon, right? Making yourself lunch. And when you have like a chronic fatigue and chronic pain condition, those are actually big deals. And so a lot of people who read her Spoon Theory said, that's my life. I only have this many spoons to deal with today.
Right.
Which means I have to prioritize. Well, I know I have to get up. I know I have to get dressed.
Right.
But I can't do this other thing, and I don't think I can blow dry my hair because my arms hurt too much. So it was a great way to show to people who are more able-bodied,
yes,
you know, our limitations. And so Spoonie became a nickname for that. No, so I am a Spoonie because I manage spoons.
What a great name, and what a great analogy to have people understand. So because you can only, as you say, you can only manage so many spoons, and you have to choose the spoons that you're going to manage for the day.
Exactly.
So then why did you decide then to create this Spoonie Authors Network?
I was inspired when I went to CanCon 2016.
CanCon is?
Oh gosh, it's the Canadian. You know, I wish
Is it a comic convention?
No, it's a speculative fiction convention.
Oh, okay.
And I can never remember
what it stands for. But
I feel so bad. But it's a really wonderful thing. It takes place, it's a 3-day conference that takes place every year in the fall.
All right.
And I attended for the first time in 2016 because that's when Life in the Cosm was being on sale for the first time there. But when I was there attending panels, I noticed people with visible disabilities, quite a few of them. And I thought, okay, this is what I can see. I bet you there are more people with invisible disabilities, and wouldn't it be great if we authors had a mechanism to network and communicate? And so I created the blog in November last year, thinking it was going to be myself and my friend Amy, and that's it. But we have now, like, I think 15, 16 contributors in total.
Wow.
Yeah.
So obviously something has resonated.
Yes.
Something has resonated with this network. Is it mostly individuals, writers, who are dealing with whether it's a visible or invisible disability who are contributing to you, to this network?
Yes. In fact, I only want people with disabilities and or chronic conditions.
Right.
But I accept and I welcome, I should say, the diversity of disability, because there are so many different types of disabilities. It's not just me rolling around with Nuala. We have people with autism. You know, we have people who manage severe debilitating migraines, as well as people who deal with fibromyalgia and other chronic pain conditions. And what's great about it is to hear all their different tales. So I'm the editor of the Spoonie Authors Network, but I also feel like I'm the student of it as well. I learned so much from the stories that the other authors bring to the table. So
this is an opportunity for authors who have different abilities, all abilities, to speak about how they are learning to manage all the spoons that they have in their life? Is that what it is?
Exactly.
Or is it a writing forum?
It's actually both.
Okay.
So it's, you know, the challenges that they might face in their writing journeys as well.
Okay.
And I think that really helps us too, because for example, there's this thing going out about you should write every day. You got to write every day. Well, you know, that's a bit ableist, because not everybody can do that.
That's an interesting word, ableist. Yeah.
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 So in the Spoonie Authors Network, when we have people with multiple sclerosis or other kinds of conditions saying, you know, I can only write 5 words, but eventually I assembled those 5 words that happened over several days and they became a poem. And I never, that was actually Jameson Wolfe. He wrote a blog about 5 words when he was coping with his multiple sclerosis, and he eventually just took these groupings of 5 or 6 words and built poems out of it, and I never thought of anything more inspirational than that.
Oh my goodness, is that ever?
Yeah.
And you know, I love this idea of there is not really a right way to write. There is not a right way to express. It really is about paying attention to how you're feeling, paying attention to what's going on in your own thoughts, and finding what is appropriate for you to be able to get the words out.
Yeah, and enjoy yourself. There's so much pressure that we authors can put on ourselves. Like a lot
of pressure.
Yeah. And I mean, if you can only manage like 1,000 words in a week, say, hey, I wrote 1,000 words this week.
Yeah.
You know, it's 1,000 more than writing none at all.
What has been your biggest challenge? What do you feel as your biggest pressure? Actually, you talk about pressure, that authors put pressure on themselves. What is it what kind of pressure do you put on yourself?
Well, because I'm coming to the published authors venue a little later in life, you know, like 22, 23,
of course,
because we've already established that. There are a lot of writers younger than me who have a lot of books out, and I have my first out, which again is kind of a big deal, but still you can look at all the prolific authors around you and say, gee, I need to catch up. And then I have to say to myself, no, I don't really have to catch up. This is where I've begun my career. So now I just need to keep going from where I am now. So it's almost like I have to go like this and put the blinders on.
Yes, and just really focus on what works for you and what works for everybody else. Because I understand that. There are a lot of like writing experts, a lot of people that tell you how you should write. And we come back to the same point that you really have to honor where you're at. And maybe 5 words for you is like 1,000 or 20,000 words for somebody else.
Exactly.
So honoring your journey exactly where you're at is such a powerful message, you know, that you offer. So tell me, what's been the response to the Spoonie Author Network?
There's been a great response.
Yeah.
And I mean, considering it started last year around this time, at CanCon 2017, we actually, a bunch of us from the Spoonie Authors Network hosted a panel about disability and sexuality.
Oh, how
and
interesting.
it was called Spooning with Spoonies.
So tell me, how well was that attended?
It was attended pretty well.
I can imagine.
Some people actually said in the feedback that they learned so much.
Okay.
Right? Because we're often considered taboo to think about in a sex way.
Yes, I can imagine.
So that was really fun. It was really fun.
So obviously the forum is treating, obviously talking about all elements of the journey and individuals who are living with disabilities, not just simply the writing process. There's other elements, obviously, that you're talking about, which is sexuality, one of those taboo subjects, right?
Yeah, and we were telling the audience, don't always make us the nice best friend. We could be the love interest. Why not?
Why not? Indeed. Why can't you be the love interest?
Exactly.
Yeah, I love that. I love your message, and I love, as I say once again, all this energy that you're pouring into that. Now, I know that you're very active on social media because I do follow you. You're active on Twitter, and one of the funniest things that I think I've seen from you is this this hashtag that you have called Operation Free Cat. So tell me about this hashtag. Tell me what inspired this hashtag.
So I'm cheeky, in case you haven't noticed.
Maybe a little.
Yeah. I grew up in Montreal, so I was born on cement, and I'm used to living in a city core. But because of the sins of my youth, now I am stuck in deep into the suburbs of Ottawa, and it's not so easy to get around and such. And I nickname my neighborhood Narnia because I say you need a wardrobe to get anywhere.
That's funny.
And so I would write this hashtag Operation Free Cat to get me into the downtown core again. So it just became a cheeky little thing that I did. Are
people responding to that?
Well, they used to. Yeah, I haven't done it as much lately.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, maybe I consider my home now my writer's cottage. I don't know.
You know, it all changes. You know, sometimes when you think you're a city girl and you can't live anywhere but the city, going out into the country becomes, you know, just what you need. You know, to kind of get the creative elements flowing again.
Yeah. And honestly, because of the lack of crowded streets, I get to roll around with Nuala all over the place.
True,
so, you know,
true.
I'm not as discontent as the Operation Free Cat days.
So where do you actually write? Do you write at home exclusively, or do you find yourself going out to different locations, like maybe to a cafe? Do you go out of your habitat, shall we call it that,
right,
to explore other places in which to get inspiration?
Well, when I wrote Life in the Cosm, I wrote it everywhere. We have great technology nowadays.
Yeah, we do, actually. Yes,
and I was
absolutely.
such a Google girl
Yeah.
when I wrote that. So I had my cell phone and laptops and my desktop at home. I wrote in doctor's offices, taxi cabs, on Paratranspo.
That's fantastic.
Everywhere.
I love it. You know, we're coming down to the final 2 minutes of the show, and I do want to touch an element of who you are as an author and your journey, and that is the spiritual element.
Okay.
And your spiritual journey, because you do talk about that a little bit. Tell me how your faith, your spirituality has influenced you or has supported you in your journey as an author.
It's huge. It's a huge part of my character. I've always been inspired by people that were maybe less religious,
Yes.
but more faithful.
Yeah.
And I even explore those themes in Life in the Cosm as well. Yeah, I have spiritual characters in them. They are two-headed beings, just
Yes.
like, except they're women.
Yes.
And they're called the Sisters of Peace, and they're the head monks of a certain planet. And so I had these two characters named Aoife and Ava, and they are my dream people who are non-judgmental, truly spiritual, truly helpful. You know, they seem to transcend all the kind of garbage things that weigh us down and organically inspire us.
Yes.
So, so that did feed into my writing as well.
As you are, because I see this is how you are as well, that kind of person who is trying through who they are to infect this world with the positivity and with the positive energy that you bring into the world. So I want to thank you for that. Thank you so much for coming onto the show and sharing your story with us. Thank you all for tuning in to this episode of The Author's Journey, and we'll see you next time. Bye for now.